Okay, so for my managerial interview assignment, I interviewed Mr. James Greenwell, the Senior Associate Director for Strategic Resource and Risk Management at North Carolina State University, and he works in the athletic department. For his, overall, he gave me a basic gist about what he does, as well as his career path and what he took to get him there, as well as what I need to do to get into the sports industry and he also gave me advice about what I need to do to find a job and find what I want to do without making mistakes. And he just gave me a bunch of tips like that, and it was really good. It was a really good interview. I asked him about uh, around 25 questions. He answered a lot of mine through uh, long answers that he gave me for several questions, or answers that would have taken up 2 or 3 questions. Um, the whole interview was about 45 minutes. Um, well, that's how long my recording was. The interview kind of continued on after we concluded. I asked him a couple questions that were a little bit off the recording, but he did he did explain to me a bunch of different things. So his background as a in the sports industry started in 1990 when he got out of the army, sorry, and he went to the University of Alabama at Birmingham. And what he had to do is that in order to get through school, he took side jobs. He worked for the student union. He managed different outlets until he graduated. He was the coordinator of operations at the university. He then got a job at the University of Central Florida, where he was the assistant director of an arena down there. So he ran a lot of concerts and different shows, carnivals, and he liked the working for facilities, but he did not like doing concerts. He liked the sport aspect of it better. And so as the year went on, about 8 months into that job, he was contacted by the UCF athletic director. I don't have his name written down here currently, but what the conversation went as is that he knew that Mr. Greenwell was interested in sport management, into being an operations leader. And what happened was that UCF really grew athletically, and the department became bigger with new facilities and new sports that came about. So basically what he asked James to do was to build their operations department from scratch. And so that's what he did for a few years. He then went on to go to Maryland, and he was part of he was the assistant athletic director there. He then went down and became a facilities um, director there as well. I think that was just for 6 years. He was there for 6 years, and now he is currently at North Carolina State as the Senior Associate for Strategic Resource and Risk Management. And so what he does here currently is that he oversees several projects, and he gave me 5 projects that he's working on right now. For the first one, he's looking at the Reynolds Coliseum renovations, which is a $35 million project. He's looking at the closed king practice facility for football, which is $14 million. He is trying to improve the parking and traffic on NC State's campus. He's looking to improve technology to fans at Carter Finley and at Reynolds Coliseum after the renovations are done, try to help them have a better experience. And he's also trying to make a rifle range for the rifle team. As well as his job doing these renovations, he is also he also oversees 2 sports, rifle and track. And part of his job is doing that is that he's trying to improve those 2 programs to become top tier teams over the next few years. Another part of his job, as far as the risk management part, is that he is really the one that employs the entire department, as well as the higher level chairs, all the directors, all the senior directors or senior associates. So he hires all of them, and he goes through that process. He is generally a close a close net of people that he knows. He also he reaches out to those people and they recommend people, and he goes out and he recruits them. So he's a heavy recruiter in that respect. He is also he also hires. Well, he's part of the hiring process for the sports. He recently just hired the new swimming and diving coaches here, and they have had a booming, huge success this year. They won ACCs. They did very well for the women's NCAAs, and they're going to compete later on this week for the men's. And so he's been fairly successful in that respect. And so after he discussed that background and he kind of went in a little bit more detail about what he does, he talked to me more about what it takes to be what it takes to be successful in his career field. And basically what it came down to was communication. Communication is essential to being an operator. Being able to balance multiple projects at the same time, being able to please everybody, being able to work through all these different things, and be able to communicate with people is essential for his job, and he is a very, very good communicator. What his main plan is that he's not trying to necessarily make people happy, not all of them, because that's almost impossible to make everyone happy. But what he wants everyone to do is to build a consensus and to move a project forward the most efficient way as possible, which is kind of how the practice facility came about so quickly, how Reynolds renovations zoomed up from 2019 or something like that to this year. And so he's really pushing these programs forward and trying to create a flat line for all these different departments. Let's see here. He talked to me about, I asked him what he considers educational requirements of the job. He said bachelor's, of course, master's as a minimum. It would be really good for somebody to get a law degree or an MBA, or to get a higher education degree in something enjoyable like sport management. And so he didn't mention any respected grad schools in the field, because I believe he got his at the University of Florida, if I recall. Yes, he earned all of his degrees at the University of Florida. No, sorry, University of Alabama at Birmingham. He got both his Bachelor of Arts and his master's degree in right after he got out of the military. He also told me kind of like the employment outlook in his field. He basically said that it's flatline. It really changes depending on the school and the region you're in. It also depends on how the athletic director looks at things. Some schools are looking to grow, some are looking to shrink. Alabama, Birmingham, just recently cut their football team as well as 2 other sports, so they're kind of downsizing a little bit to save money. While other schools like, he gave me an example, but I don't remember. But they're growing, and their football programs are growing. And he kind of gave me a historical analysis of football, which is kind of the prime example for growth. Back in the day, he saw that football only had about 9 faculty members. It was nine coaches and strength trainers, and then a chaplain, and that was the football faculty. And now you have those 9 coaches, as well as offensive, defensive coordinators, as well as strength trainers, equipment people, operations people, just for the football team. And those so it went from basically 9 people to about 30 or 40 different faculty members for a football team. Specific jobs like operators, who 8 years ago would have just been one person, is now 3 different people. Either just like a senior operator, an operator, and then like a graduate assistant to help them. That's not uncommon for a lot of different football teams. So he said that football is a growth that will continue to grow in his view of the future job outlook. I asked him what kind of experience, whether it was paid or unpaid, would he encourage anybody to do in pursuing a career in his field, or just in general in sport or in athletics. And he said that like say, if I were to try to look for an internship or something I want, that before I even bother trying to find experience, were to go out and find all these different people with a wide range of career fields and try to see what or try to see if I could do their job for a week, or if I could sit in their shoes and say I can do this, or I enjoy this, or if I don't like it at all, then I know I cannot do that. Because if I were to get an internship in marketing and I spend a year there and I don't like marketing and I'm not particularly good at it, then why am I there? Why am I wasting the time? So he says while I'm still young, while I'm still in college, try looking around at the different people who work in the athletic department and try to get a foot in the door. And I thought that was very good. I appreciated that advice from him, especially because he gave me a bunch of information of the different people that worked at Weisinger Brown and in Broughton, in Reynolds, and in Case, and so I can go out and try to talk to these people. He also told me that don't spend time trying to deny what I am, because he had a young man who came to him a few years ago. He was a defensive tackle at Syracuse, and he wanted to be a coach, or he was a coach, but he wanted to get into athletics, and he got a degree in economics, and he was a he was just a general youth and community football coach. I guess it was Pee Wee or something like that, and he was a coach for them. He came to Mr. Greenwell asking for any kind of work in sports management, some kind of guidance. So he explained to him what it takes to be in sports, in intercollegiate sports, and he sent this man away, tried to mull it over. He gave him a book to read called What Color is Your Parachute? And the book that is based on is basically how to make a good career judgments, basically. And he read this book. The man didn't want to be a coach. He just didn't like the time commitment. He and his family didn't enjoy it. But he came back to Mr. Greenwell saying, I am going to be a coach. I cannot deny that I am a leader. I am an educator. This is what I want to do. And so he was in the right place at the right time. Georgia was looking for a defensive tackle coach, and that's who he was. That's what he did in college at Syracuse, and he latched onto that job, and now I think he's one of the coaches at Maryland University right now. And so I thought that was a very good story for him to tell me. I asked him why he chose this type of work. He said that it first started off that he was just going to try to get a degree and go back into the military as an officer. But what he liked the most was the facility and the operations of coordinating people that he really enjoyed, and he really enjoyed athletics. So he just kind of stuck with that field. And if he didn't do this, he would probably go back in the military as an officer. But he does enjoy sports and athletics. As far as that, I think that was the basic gist of the whole interview. He and I talked a little bit afterwards about career choices, and he and I are developing a little bit of a relationship because he overlooks my sport. But I don't spend that much time with him. I've only ever seen him about 2 times in the last year and a half or so, and he's been very generous with giving me meetings to talk to him, and I'm looking forward to try to go back and talk to him a little bit more about career advice, as well as when I try to look for an internship somewhere. I think he and another person in his department that I'm going to try to interview later on in the summer, that I can try to look with them for an internship, or anybody they know in the North Carolina area that I can try to get an internship with. So I thought that this interview was very good. There was a lot more that came out of it than I expected. The information that he gave me was great. He gave me a couple contact info, not just of himself or people in North Carolina State, but outside North Carolina State, that he said I should not hesitate in trying to reach out to in the future when I'm looking for an internship or looking for a beginner job. And he also said that from observing me in at practice or at the matches, that I am a operator, and from what I have learned from his job and what he does and his experience, that I would love to do what he does, is to be kind of like a facility worker or to be kind of like a risk management person, and just coordinating people around is what I like to do, because that's probably my biggest role on the rifle team besides score, is just helping people do well. And I think that is basically the entire interview. So, yep, that is it. Thank you, and I'll see you in class.